Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
There's something that no one is talking about. We really don't need a lot of science, but there is science behind it. But again, no one really talks about it. And that's because we want to believe that the key to longevity and health are these tangible things that we can touch, we can take, we can manipulate. And this can be manipulated, but possibly one of the things that has the most profound effect on your health and your longevity is this particular thing. And by the end of the show, I'm not only going to reveal to you what it is, I'm going to reveal to you how easy it is for you to change it and give you some solid steps to do that. But I'm going to also make a promise to you that if you really do it, if you commit to it and you do it, your life will change. That the circumstances in your life may not change. You know, if you're missing a limb, it's not going to grow back. But your acceptance of your life will change, and the joy in your life will change. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. So let's start with this study, since I really don't think we need a lot of science to support this notion. But let's start with the study that started in the 1930s. And it was sponsored by Harvard School of Medicine. Back then, it was called the Grant Study or the Crimson Men's Study. And back in around 1938, I guess it was, they started to take guys from Harvard and from other groups, but mostly from Harvard, into the study, and they wanted to follow them for a lifetime and see, you know, how long did they live, what contributed to their life, what trends did we see, what trends didn't we see. And then later on, the study opened up. I want to say in the 40s, the study opened up and became the Grant-Gluck study, and then they started to bring men from around Boston into the study. And then later on, the study expanded again, and this time, because Harvard was an all-male school back then, so it was just guys. The second tier of the study, the Gluck edition, that was still just guys. But then somewhere, I want to say, maybe in the 70s, early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, they started to include men and their wives. And so we started to get information about women as well. And they looked at everything that they could. This actually is, if not the longest, one of the largest longitudinal studies ever done. I mean, they've been following people now for over 80 years. And they have complete, really good information and blood work. You know, being part of this group, you had to make a commitment that you were going to do what you needed to do to support the study. In fact, two of the people that were entered into the study somewhere in the 50s was John F. Kennedy Jr. and the guy who used to run 60 Minutes, Bill Bradley. So they had different paths. So they enrolled these people when they were nobodies, and then their trajectory of their lives were looked at, and how did that contribute to longevity and aging and so on. And no matter what they teased out of this study, that they were like, look at, oh, well, this correlates. The one thing that had glaring evidence, and still does today, because this study is still going on, they're still bringing people into this study. It's an amazing thing. It's now called the Grant-Gluck study, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, what the glaring commonality in the men, and then the men and the women who appeared to be aging the best, seemed not to have the disease states that others had, seemed to have a really good quality of life, and their perception of the quality of their life, were people who they claimed had healthy relationships, good relationships with a spouse or a large family or even a group of friends. And they've even done TED Talks about this part of the study. which it deserves to be talked about. But the problem is that when you talk to people about good relationships are like this I don't know, this amorphous, shapeless thing that you really can't. Well, what is a good relationship? Is it one that the other person is supportive of you? Is it one that the other person does everything you want them to do? Is it one that the person loves you? Is it the way the person talks? There's this, and I've always been somebody who tries to look for the lowest common denominator in everything. And that's not always a good way to look at things. And I know that. But every now and then it applies. And so when I start to look at what we consider good relationships, I started to focus on that mushy word that some of us don't even want to hear because it's so touchy-feely, but love. And it's not just being in a relationship where someone loves you. In my humble opinion, it's being in a relationship where you are compelled to love unrestrained that other person. And whatever they do to make you feel that way, well, that's your love language, right? Okay, great. Now, I'm not talking about that. But what I am talking about is all of these studies that looked at these men and all the different extrapolations that they've done from this particular body of research shows healthy relationships. And I say that's really not what it is. It's not healthy relationships. It's how frequently you actually experience loving someone else or something else. Could be a dog. So I actually talked about this on my recent interview with Tom Bilyeu when I did Health Theory, but in an effort to keep the interview succinct and under 40 minutes, they had to edit this part out. And I really think that this message, when we talk about longevity, we talk about health, we talk about health span, we talk about drugs, we talk about supplements, we talk about diets, we talk about training, we talk about activity, we talk about the quality of sleep, we talk about getting in the sun. And we do talk about sex, if I'm the one that's doing the talk about it, because there is a direct linkage to the higher degree of sexuality and longevity, and it also seems to confer some protective benefits to certain diseases of modernity, so we can't discount that. But I really think that even when we talk about sex, we know from research that, for instance, blood pressure goes down after two people make love, but it doesn't go down after someone self-stimulates. And so we know that a lot of the research done on sex and sexuality take into account the level of emotion between the partners and whether or not that confers a greater sense of satisfaction in the lovemaking. And it does. The more connected you are to somebody, the deeper, the faster you go when you are being intimate with them. And as a result of that, we know that these feelings seem to line up. They seem to correlate with health and longevity. And we look at this study here, the Grant Gluck study, and we see that the guys and the gals who had they said that they have lots of great relationships. They seem to live the longest, even if, one's not a vegetarian and one is. And it's like, wait a minute, all this other stuff seems to go out the window when we just look at this one thing. The problem with this is that science has a hard time talking about this stuff, just as most of us do. For some reason, openly talking about love either relegates you to being like, stoned out hippie, tree hugger, or a potential, stalker. We don't talk about love openly as comfortable as we talk about anything else. We talk about transgender sexuality all day long. But love seems to be one of those words that we're cautious around it. We don't say it a lot. That's the problem. So I would argue that the people in the Grant Gluck study that claimed that they had great relationships, we actually really, if you started to ask them questions about, well, what does great relationship mean to you? They have people in their lives that they love. And I said this to Tom Bilyeu. I says, Tom, we were sitting across from me. I says, I can tell you I love you, and you may think, wow, that's really nice, that's great, but you really can't feel it. And he looked at me and I says, when you love somebody and you think about them and you feel that love, your heart starts to pick up. Your body temperature may go up. You may have changes in skin. You may get goosebumps. You become excited. You're feeling that love. I mean, when you say, I feel everybody's love for me, you do not. That's a lie. You're just trying to say, I know that you love me and I want to thank you for that. It's working. I want you to know that it's working. But you can't feel that. I mean, if you could feel that, imagine Mother Teresa would have been crushed by the weight of all the love that she felt all day long. She wouldn't have been able to clean toilets in India. I mean, but when you love somebody, you feel it. You feel it. However it is that you feel it, you actually feel it in your body. It changes you physically. Even if it's just a smile that comes on your face, it just changes you physically. You feel it. And I would suggest that it's the people who have the largest circle of people they love freely that seem to have this amazing carryover when they say, I have great relationships, I would argue that the more freely you love, the more opportunities you have to feel that, the more often you fire hormones like oxytocin and who knows what else. I mean, nobody's really studying it deep enough. But clearly, it's working. It's doing something. And so I would argue that when we hear people talk about their relationships, we're really talking about the quality of their opportunities to love that other person or their family, their children, their, fiance. I got to be honest with you. I didn't realize this myself until I met Elisa. Because I always felt, I think now that I look back, that I held back something in relationships in the past. And maybe it was because I got hurt, like most of us. Our first relationship always ends up in pain. And so you think to yourself, that's it, I'm never going to do this again. But then you get to be an adult and you think, I'm not still thinking that way. But then when you observe your behavior from 30,000 feet, you go, no wonder why that relationship didn't work. I really didn't really want it to work maybe. But when I met Elisa, I learned how to be more reckless and, unfettered about loving. And then it dawned on me like, wow, I feel so good. It's like a drug. I feel so good when I feel that way. And maybe I need to feel that way more often. And maybe I need to start cutting myself some slack and stop trying to stereotype myself as somebody. If I say I love you to somebody and I really mean it, it pays me off too. So I may be doing it selfishly, but, it's working. Now, obviously, you got to be with somebody that you were inspired to love to that degree. And that usually requires somebody who loves you back to some degree and speaks your love language and makes you happy too. But this is something that you could change right now. Like we always hear about things. Well, you could start meditating right now. Just close your eyes 20 minutes. Well, I can't close my eyes for 20 minutes. I'm driving right now. But you know what? I can think about someone who I really love and think about them, and you'll feel something. And the more you cultivate it, the faster you start to feel it and the deeper you start to feel it. So the more frequently you think about people you love, you actually have an ability to feel that faster and deeper as time goes on. If you shut people out that you love, if you ignore that, if you deny it, you're just hurting yourself. You end up being that old woman who never felt love for anybody, and now when the baseball comes over the fence, she grabs it from the kids and says, now you're not getting your baseball back. You become stingy. If you're stingy with love, you're going to be stingy in life. There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off. Never before has a product been so appropriately named as Botanic Tonics Feel Free. This plant-based elixir combines a variety of different effective compounds, all from raw plant materials that at different doses provide you with completely different experiences. A third of a bottle puts you in the zone and makes you very focused and is ideal for a non-stimulating pre-workout. It also has a mild analgesic effect for us older lifters who have soreness and little pains and aches that keep us from training as ferociously as we want. A half a bottle will create a mild euphoric effect that will allow you to forego consuming alcohol, but still be socially lubricated and have fun. I have never had a product deliver on its name the way Botanic Tonics Feel Free does, and I won't ever be without it, and you shouldn't either. Go to shrnetwork.biz/feelfree and use the code SHR40 for 40% off your first order. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. GHKCU is one of the most effective peptides for rebuilding more youthful skin, reversing skin damage, diminishing wrinkles, and tightening loose skin. I personally use Restoracell with GHKCU every day. It's making an undeniable difference in the quality of my skin. Restoracell is fantastic for all types of skin. Now you can order Restoracell and save 25% when you use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. While you may be diligent in your workouts and your diet, don't neglect what people see first and foremost, and that's your skin. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use code SHR25 today. I don't ignore anything that is going to benefit my health and longevity. Nothing. It's all, if it really works, and it does really work when you think about it. Because we see people who seem to be openly loving to people, and they just are wonderful people to be around. They attract people. People feel strongly about them as well. But more importantly, they just seem to be happier with their lives. They have all these opportunities to feel joy. If you're severely depressed right now and you're laying in a bed, just humor me. Just humor me and just try this. Close your eyes. Think of a child. Think of a spouse. Think of a parent. Think of a favorite uncle. Think of a close friend in school. Think of somebody that you have actually felt love for. And just close your eyes and think about them for a little while. I mean, even if the seismic shift in your depression is a hair, it's still showing that it works. And that is the key. That's the key. So this is the exercise. Everyone can do it. And you can do it frequently throughout the day. It doesn't take a lot of planning. But that is to, from time to time, actively and consciously think of somebody you love. And think about how you love them. Think about how it feels. And you'll feel it. You know it. You feel it all the time when you think about them and you're not trying to exercise this reaction. So just do the same thing. Just think of that person that you love. And it will uplift the way you feel. It will uplift the way you feel about your life. You will be honing a really good habit of feeling joy and love quickly. And according to research from the Grant Gluck study, these people live the longest. Some of them are in their 90s now, in the group that seem to have the strongest sense and the largest group of relationships. These guys are in their 90s now, and I'm sure some of their wives too. So that's my message today. And you know what? You read books about the mitochondria. You read books about different training methods. When's the last time you read a book about love? Seriously. You don't have the time to read a book about love? We have a sponsor called Blinkist, BLINKIST.com/superhuman. And they condense books, nonfiction books, down to like 15-minute segments where you can learn everything you need to learn from the book. You don't have time to read a book on love? Then listen to it on the way to work. I love Blinkist. It's the coolest app in the world, Blinkist.com/superhuman. Check it out. But really, when have you ever cultivated anything to do with love in your life? And I don't mean, oh, well, I'm out there at the bars looking for love. No, that's not what I'm talking about. You know that. You're just joking. But when is the last time you put a little effort into actually understanding this thing, this great gift that we have, and I'm sure other animals have it too, believe it or not. This is not exclusively human, but the social constructs we put on openly loving and the potential embarrassment of being that way, or, oh, this person's a jerk, or, I mean, that's a social construct that we have created that is actually keeping us from doing something that we are innately designed to do. There you go. I hope I delivered something worthwhile. Short show. And definitely start trying this technique. Just try to think of somebody from time to time that you're crazy about and love recklessly. Don't worry about getting your heart broken. That doesn't matter. When you love somebody, you're the one being rewarded by the action of you loving. So if things don't work out, don't feel bad. You still got something good out of it. You still got the opportunity to love somebody. This is really something I believe in strongly. And I think that more people need to explore this in their lives. And don't wait too long, because none of us are getting younger. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off. P3OM from Bioptimizers is a patented prebiotic and probiotic supplement with Lactobacillus plantarum OM. It has now been upgraded to P3OM 2.0 with the addition of a superfood formulation that makes it 2 times stronger, as well as optimizes L. plantarum's strength. So it's more powerful than ever, which means that not only will it help you completely digest all animal proteins, it also reduces cortisol, causes deep relaxation and better sleep, and reduces stress. Go to shrnetwork.biz/P3-OM today and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. All right, that's all I have to say today. I hope you